Hello everyone, and welcome to today's discussion. This discussion is going to be about hypnosis, some of the benefits of hypnosis, and some of the lessons learned from hypnosis practice. Before we get started, I wanted to sort of just quickly talk about the mission of Meditate for Change and why have we started doing these kind of discussions. Um, so after the pandemic has started, we noticed that it disrupted the flow of life for a lot of individuals. And this led to a global understanding of the importance of mental health in our day-to-day life and in our society as well. And we noticed that a lot of people didn't have inner clarity about how to tackle their own mental health and how to address the issues that they're having. So we founded Meditate for Change on the basis of uh, helping individuals realize their reality and finding ways for them to ease their distress and turn their turmoil into a positive experience and help them to unleash their true potential as humans, to help one another and fully open up to what we're capable of doing as a society. So what we do at Meditate for Change is we do workshops and we do events and discussions that talk about different ways to approach mental health, talk about different ways to help learn how to meditate and do yoga and get introduced to other forms of spiritual practices. And like today, we're going to be discussing hypnosis and how it can help our physical and mental health. And what we aim is to shed light on some of the scientific aspects of spirituality and help normalize it. And we also aim at bringing awareness to each individual's inner reality so that they can regulate their own mental and physical health and drive their potential forward. So thank you so much for being here and being part of this one of a kind experience. And I'm going to start introducing our team. So this is the first time we do an event all together, which is amazing, and I'm so excited to start these discussions. Our guest speaker today is Miss Soojna Kim, and she is a level 3 QHHT practitioner, and she is the only level 3 practitioner in Ontario. And Ms. Sue has been the director of research at Meditate for Change, and she has been aiding us in developing workshops and finding better ways to help you in the workshops that we do. So thank you so much, Ms. Zunia, for being here. The next person we have on our panel today is Mr. Sviatozar Napolius. He comes all the way from Russia, and uh, he is um, he is the manifestation coach in Meditate for Change. Sviat is also the intern for hypnosis, and he will be talking about his experience as an intern, the things that he's learning in the process. Sviat is studying
classical hypnosis.
classical hypnosis, so he has a slightly different viewpoint, and we're gonna get to find that out in the discussion. And Lama Jodi is our art director, and she is the I don't know if they can see you through the camera though, but we will.
Sorry, I usually show my art. Everything was on a rush.
Thank you, Lama. And she has some testimonials to share about hypnosis, her experience with quantum healing hypnosis technique, and so forth. And finally, myself, my name is Wiam Sharafuddin, and I am a level 1 quantum healing hypnosis practitioner. I've also been doing a lot of hypnosis research, so I will carry forward that portion regarding hypnosis from a research perspective and the power that it has to offer. So enough talking about me. Let's start with the discussion, and let's start with a quick question to Sue. How do you think people are using um, hypnosis differently after the pandemic has started? What kind of shift have you seen with the clients that you have before and after the pandemic?
Prior to pandemic, most people have interest in healings and questions about their career and how to make money. And after pandemic, I find more people are interested in what is life all about? Why are we here? What am I supposed to progress? And that seems to be predominant rather than making money part. So that was my observation. And of course, basic understanding about people have their physical discomforts. They want to know about career change and all that, still prevalent. That's correct wording, right? However, yeah, that's a main shift is that instead of how to make money, how to get promoted in the career to become more important position that can happen to them, then they're searching the real meaning of life. I think that in one sentence, that would be the change.
That's pretty interesting. And did you see an influx of the people who are interested in hypnosis after, from a both from a healing perspective, but also from becoming a practitioner themselves? Did you find that the number has increased after the pandemic?
Yeah, substantially more people are interested in becoming a practitioner. And some of them already learned how to do this quantum healing hypnosis technique. They wanted to experience it. I have two kinds of people mostly coming. One kind is the one that I just talk about, already learned and want to experience it, what it's like. And also they want to learn from me how to do it. The second one is they're wondering to do and to learn this quantum healing hypnosis technique or not. But let me decide after I have a session, see if it's worthwhile. So there are two types of people, but they all have interest in QHHT somehow. And, you know, Dolores Cannon's material is all over the world on YouTubes and books. So people, whoever is metaphysically inclined, they end up going there and they end up reading them, watching them, and curious about them. Yeah, that is my major influx of them right now that I'm seeing.
Mm-hmm. So let's direct this at Viet. The idea of hypnosis, like Sue is saying, has been spread around the world, obviously a lot more because of the work of some great hypnosis leaders like Dolores Cannon. What made you decide to go into the route of classical hypnosis versus studying it from the Dolores Cannon method? And are you familiar with the Dolores Cannon method?
Oh, I'm very familiar with Dolores Cannon QHHT hypnosis technique. Here in Russia, this technique is called the Dolores method. So it's not called QHHT here, it's called the Dolores method. And in the beginning of Dolores Cannon's career, the first country that accepted this information, this new knowledge and new information, and the first country to publish the books was Russia. So there is differences between the classical and QHHT. There is a drastic difference between them. In classical hypnosis, you work with the subconscious. You work with the subconscious. Basically, you deal with the filters and programs the person has and developed throughout his life until the period where we're doing the session. QHHT is a therapy, is a therapy technique, is a therapy session that that goes way deeper and beyond the subconscious, which makes it, as I call it, going into the true self, deep enough to go to reach the true self, and there is where the therapy happens. Since you get to the true self and you realize, and the therapy occurs.
So just to clarify from your experience so far studying classical hypnosis, you're saying like, do you do multiple sessions with classical hypnosis versus more of a one-time session that deals with most of the healing and therapy with QHHT?
Yeah, in classical hypnosis sessions, there is something called packages. Once you take a session, you take, for example, 3 sessions, 6 sessions, depending on the situation and the problem, and whether it's a phobia or it's a bad habit, or depending on the situation, on the problem. Mm-hmm. But in the QHHT, one session is as big as 6 of classical hypnosis, for example. And as I said, it doesn't works on deeper levels as QHHT. So in classical hypnosis, yes, you do several sessions, because from the first session, it's not enough usually, because to change the program, or a program in the subconscious, you needed 2, 3, up 3+ times.
I have just two questions here. You are saying multiple sessions, but that's only to change or enhance one program or one filter program.
Yes.
In reverse to in QHHT, I think you cover many topics in one session, right? Depending on the question that the person has, depending on the list of questions that the person is trying to find out, and
definitely.
Yeah. So, and also my other question is, and this is, I think this is a problem that most people who undergo hypnosis and the practitioners have, what to call this entity, because Dolores Cannon calls it the higher self, the SC. In her book, she writes the SC, but then she calls it the higher self, but in the book she writes the subconscious. And then you are saying that in classical hypnosis you do target the subconscious, but in QHHT there's a deeper, much deeper entity. So yeah, which one?
Which one of them? Well, the idea is, in the history of psychology, at first, when psychology comes from a Greek word, which is psycho, and logos, which means the study of the soul. So before, psychology was considered as a study of the soul. Later on, they started putting into this knowledge, or into this science, consciousness. Then they started concentrating on the psyche of the person, which is basically reflexology, for example, like how the brain reacts to a specific reactions of the brain to specific situations, and they remove the consciousness part. So in hypnosis, the idea is that there is nothing called, as in psychology, as higher self, or as the consciousness. There is, yes, consciousness there is, But something higher than that, as the higher self, collective consciousness, for example, higher self, these are not legal names in psychology or hypnotherapy. So I think, this is my personal opinion, that's why in the books, in the literature, it's referred to as the subconscious, SC.
Part of it is I think because Freud was the first like psychologist to bring this to the public domain, I think the idea of him dividing the consciousness into three parts became the most um, well-known methodology of breaking the consciousness. And he referred to things as conscious brain, subconscious brain, and then the unconscious brain. So I think because of that, now everyone refers to, like everyone in classical psychology refers to the stages of consciousness the same way. But again, this was more of a theory than a reality, and there's no real like solid difference between this theory and other theories. But when Dolores decided to name that entity that you contact when you go into that deep state of theta, uh, she was first asking what would we refer to you, and they said we have no name. So she, at the time, I don't think she was aware of the proper wording for psychologists, so she just called it the subconscious, meaning the state of consciousness that's below the conscious state. So the word the subconscious in Dolores Cannon method or in QHHT is simply, you could say, equates to the unconscious in classical psychology. It's the part that you don't normally access or don't have access to normally in your awake states or in your uh, in between states. So even in this somnambulistic level, you don't access that state unless you go much deeper into theta.
Yes.
What about we hear a bit from Sue's experience, since you have direct contact, verbal contact with this entity? Had they ever initiated any type of wording or focus
Well,
on?
what we am is departing their knowledge is the same thing, because Dolores' time, they didn't have, well, she didn't have any understanding other than subconscious. So she just put the subconscious. But later in her practice, then other names developed. And the higher self doesn't mind whatever name you put it, it's the same thing. Either higher self, over soul, it's the same thing. It's just a human thing, to terminology in that way. That's all there is.
So you're saying it's a human thing to put a label on it to specify
Yeah,
exactly what is it?
Exactly what it is your higher self, like me, bigger self. Lama, your little self, you got a bigger self of you.
Yeah.
And that is you. That's a higher self we call. Whatever you want to call, higher self, over soul, super conscious Lama, they're all same.
I think it's the need to label things is because we need to at some point advertise for everything. So this is the human experience
That's
condition.
your human stuff, right?
Yeah. For the higher self, they're like, what is this? What are you talking about? What do you call me?
Well, it's a human thing again. It's a human wants to call label something, but they don't require any labels at all. They are light beings. They always guide us, right? Whatever name that you want to call it, it's up to you. They don't care what name you put it in, right?
Yeah, I think the whole idea of the guide is a crucial key point in this discussion, because again, if we're comparing classical hypnosis with QHHT, I think classical hypnosis would maybe, I don't know, I mean, you answer me, but it would maybe focus on changing habits rather than understanding the importance of being guided or understanding the value of having an internal guide. Since I did undergo both types in one way or another. So I think I felt like during classical hypnosis, it's simply trying to reprogram or help me leave a bad habit or understand a certain program that I have and something related to my childhood or something like this. But it's not an ongoing conversation. It's it's this simple break of putting my ego to rest and then like fixing this glitch and then going back to my regular life. But in QHHT, I felt it was more of an ongoing conversation with my guides, understanding the value of having this inner guide that's with you everywhere you go, and that the more you allow that guide to speak to you, the more things around you become better, and you evolve easier, and you understand the human experience and the human conditions in an easier way, and they don't actually fall as a burden on you anymore.
Hmm. Yeah, what you're saying makes sense, and also a lot of like something to bring up to attention is that each person's program or perception of reality denotes how they behave to either method. So we get a lot of people, or I've seen a lot of people who come for a QHHC session. Um, they already know what they're getting themselves into, so they're already more open to the possibility of um, allowing this guidance to come through, allowing the subconscious to communicate with them, and so it makes the process easier. But a lot of them who haven't heard of QHHT, they have more difficulty actually accessing that deeper understanding. So in those cases, I actually have referred a few people to do classical hypnosis, um, because they've programmed their minds, or their subconscious programming is that there's no such thing as a higher entity or something. So it's harder for them to approach this technique versus if they go through a regular psychologist or hypnotherapist. It makes the process more logical for them, so they can slowly let go of um, their restrictions based on their perception of reality. And I think that's also the importance of having more than one approach, because not all people are the same, and you may not get um, what you're looking for in one method, but you'll get it in another. And so having options allows to, tailor to everyone's needs.
Yes, I agree. I found the best way is combining the techniques in one, even in one session, combining them. Oh, the effects are like canon. Very
Mm-hmm.
nice.
Which is interesting because
Very powerful.
a lot of talk is going on now about like there's someone called Candace who started a beyond quantum healing approach after being a Dolores Cannon supporter for a long time. She's now opening up the possibility of doing even the Dolores method could be improved, and there could be some ways to approach it, um, that tailor the experience to each individual. And this is something that both me and Sue have experienced, where you get certain people that just simply don't fit the mold of the technique itself. So you have to kind of change things around and adjust. The same way that yet you could refer to more than one technique. Even within classical hypnosis, you can actually combine different techniques to tailor to the needs of that individual. So let's talk a little bit about some of the benefits, since we're getting into this discussion. What are some of the most important things you've seen people benefit from doing hypnosis, um, in regards to, expectations versus reality? What have they sort of gotten out of this experience from a practitioner's perspective? And then we'll move to Lama to see her perspective on both. Sue, if you want to start?
Um, People come, I only know the QHHT, so people come with several questions in a bigger categories. Say, for example, physical issues and any physical discomforts they have, or long-term chronic pains or acute pains, whatever they have. Basically, physical discomfort they have, they want to resolve it. Then they have another question of their relationship. They're having issues with their family members, their children or partners, like that. So it's people issues. And then again, another question they bring is that what is my life purpose? I'm working every day, wake up and go to work and have a good lunch and all that. But what is actually the reason why I'm doing all this? So that's life purpose. And then another branch of that will be because we all have to work, kind of pay the bills. So money is issue too, like what is a better career, or where can I get abundance? So that could be a few categories, or some people have emotional issues. I mean, we cannot organize in certain categories. I'm just talking whatever comes to my mind, what these people bring. They have anxiety. They have mental issues of depression, been taking drugs for years, but nothing is helping. I cannot sleep well. Why?
Mm-hmm.
And I am suicidal. Why do I want to kill myself? All this kind of thing. So they are bringing all these issues in one session. They take about 4 to 6, 7 hours, depends on how much they need in one session. So normally I put one single day for one person. That's all I can handle, because this person brings all kinds of questions, and we
Mm-hmm.
resolve all that in one session.
So you're saying that all these questions are brought to your attention and then they do the session. Is the healing process or the answers right away? They come and they have everything that they need from that one session? Or is it a mix of sometimes they get everything and sometimes they have to, or like the healing takes time, or just clarify a little bit more about that.
Okay, so everybody is unique. So now it's not like a one fits all. So some people, they have instant healings they receive. Some people, it takes them to repeat several things. Their bigger self is letting them know what to do with it, and they have to keep practicing it. And some people who is not having any belief system that there is any higher power, or their ego is very stuck, then sometimes they don't get anything. So it's all varies.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the result all varies. And of course, you know that even though this is one-time session, people's life changes. So therefore, whenever you progress in your life and situation changes, and you will have different questions. Right in the beginning, you will have a general questions on everything. However, when 5, 6 months later, a year down the road, you will have a specific questions.
Mm-hmm.
So then you can always come back. At Dolores' time, she was the only one who caters everybody globally. So there was a long waiting time, and it was only one time a life kind of thing. But however, she's trained many, many practitioners around the world so that people have more choices. They can go to the session more than once.
Mm-hmm. That's good to know, like that whatever the person brings is a unique experience, and it's best to have no expectations because the expectations might hurdle the process too. Like that's from my experience. The less expectations you have, the better results you get because you're not limiting your approach to this technique.
I wouldn't say no expectations. Like you'd still expect some healing, but you wouldn't particularly. I think the problem is that a lot of people know about this kind of hypnosis from other people who've gone through it, and every experience is very personal. So not every person has the same type of experience. I think a lot of people when they go, because I had a lot of friends where they ask me about my experience. I go like, okay, so this and this and this and that happened, and then when they go to do their hypnosis, they go like, this didn't happen with me. Go like, yeah, because every person has a different. They come from different places. They have different problems. They had required different types of healing. So
Everybody's unique, right? So therefore, I mean, people watch a lot of YouTubes of all kinds, read a lot. They have their own expectations. Oh, certain my session should be this because so and so had this. And that is an expectation. That's what we say. Don't expect anything that way because your life is so different. Like Lama just said, it's unique. You will have your own unique experience. So let's just open, see what my experience will be like. You know, that would be the good open mind concept. Yeah.
I had a friend who did a session recently, and she kept saying like, "Oh, like I was, I wasn't swept away over my feet. Like there was no higher power that took over me while I was in the session, and therefore I doubted that everything was said was real because I was expecting this swooping effect to happen." And I'm like, I don't know who tells people to expect that, but the idea of you contacting your higher self, this higher self is you at the end of the day. So expecting that it's a higher power that's going to sweep over you is a very unrealistic expectation. There have been experiences from the sessions that I've done where people reported, feeling some sort of higher power take over the session and not recalling a lot from what happened. But this only happens if you're in a very deep theta, and it doesn't happen to everyone because not everyone has the ability to go to that level the exact same way.
and it also
It
depends if
doesn't
you're a meditator.
Yes, definitely. If you are familiar with meditation, then it will definitely help the process. So I always encourage people to be regular meditators. If they do aim at getting a QHHT session, it makes it easier. And to be familiar with the process of changing your brainwaves from beta to alpha to theta, and then finding it easy to transition, because the process is not magical. It's something that we do every day when we go to sleep, and the same thing we're doing in any form of hypnosis is we're just going through the brain changes from beta to alpha, and some hypnosis techniques like QHHT go deeper into theta, and we just stop the brain at that level so that we can have a conversation with the person in that state. That's as simple as it is. Like there's no, I'm gonna put a pendulum onto your eyes and you're gonna fall asleep. That's not hypnosis. It's a totally different thing. It's called mesmerism. We can have a whole discussion about that, but it's not the same thing. So for people who are unfamiliar with it, it's a very simple process. It's similar to guided meditation, and there's an ongoing conversation. Okay, let's go to Sviet and ask you the same question. So, what are some of the benefits of classical hypnosis, since you've already started doing some sessions and have some experience with that?
Well, in classical hypnosis, I have a lot of people coming with various different reasons. As Sue said, everybody is unique, absolutely, and everybody has his own individual experience. Absolutely right. Now, what we usually or what people usually get from the sessions out of classical hypnosis is I call it innocent things. Like for example, a person wants to be more comfortable at work, so we do a classical hypnosis, a hypnosis session, where at a certain at a certain level, at a certain period after putting him under, there is something called in Russian внушение, which is translated like induction. It's a small paragraph, a set of words like are, for example, you are confident, you feel comfortable around that atmosphere, you are being friendly to the people, you feel comfortable around them, you can be honest, it doesn't you feel good about it. No matter what they ask you, you're confident and you know the answer. So basically it's a confidence boost for the person. And you can say it's a program that is installed, a new software that is installed, that person starts using, and people notice like, oh, like at a certain situations I used to like act or react in a certain way, and now I'm more calm, I'm more confident, I'm more, for example, my decision making is better and healthy because I'm being more calm than before, etc., etc. Phobias, for example, like person is scared from something, so we can find out why he's scared, which is the healthy way, or after a couple of sessions he's just magically not scared from it anymore, which is not so healthy because we don't know the reason why. But it's, again, it's like a software installed. So mostly what people get out of sessions is the confidence boost, being sure in what they're doing, being better in what they're doing. Like, for example, if in QHHT, for example, a person can choose or get an advice on his career, which career to take better, which career more resonates with him. In classical hypnosis, the person just becomes comfortable in whatever he's doing. So that's how it is.
This is why you're saying like classical hypnosis in this sense is not very healthy as much as QHHT, because QHHT gives you the reason behind whatever you're dealing with.
Well, I can speak on behalf of classical hypnosis. I'm not an expert like Sue in QHHT, but in classical hypnosis, you don't go to the root and cut it from the root of the problem. Like if there is a problem, you don't go to the root of the problem and remove the roots and you solve the problem. You learn the lesson and you evolve. Classical hypnosis as its programming, basically. So basically, in other words, in a simplified language, you can say it's masking. It's masking. Just like NLP, for example, NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, manipulation techniques, which are also masking.
But what are the, like, why would someone choose to mask versus solve the problem from its core? Let's go to Lama and see what she has to say.
Well, I found that during QHHT there are a lot of things that I need to work on, and while I was trying to work on these, I understood that some things will be easier to work on if I have the proper programming in my mind. So basically, because I know why I have a certain problem, it was easier for me to program or to select a specific program that helps me to fix this problem. So for instance, I'm living currently in Russia and I'm trying to learn the language. It's very difficult. It's very difficult. So there is a classical hypnosis technique that helps you understand languages or master languages in an easier way. So for me, this option is good. It helps me acquire the skill in a faster way. But at the same time, if mastering a language was a problem, a prominent problem that I've been having for a while, then I would like to know the exact reason why it's happening. And as Sviat said, tackle the roots rather than to just tackle the symptoms, right?
Yeah, because as I said earlier, one is therapeutic, another is, you can say, like
Maintenance.
maintenance. Exactly, another is maintenance. So like
Conscious maintenance.
about the language, about the language, there is an induction where, for example, I've faced people that learn new language, for example, they are scared to speak the language in front of people, though they have to practice, but they're scared because of how would, like, for example, how would people think about them, or because he's talking funny, you know, like he's pronouncing it in a funny way. So in the session, we would install, like, you speak perfectly fine, you remember the words easily, your vocab words are filled easily, you remember all the words, you don't forget them, you speak with confidence. So this helps the person that is learning the language to speak, to practice, to not to be scared or feeling uncomfortable around this language or in a specific surrounding or atmosphere.
Interesting that you say that. If we take, for example, because I just thought of something that may be helpful to add to what you're saying. If someone wants to quit smoking and they do a QHHT, and this is something that I got, like, at least 25% of the people I hypnotize are because they want to stop a bad habit or they have a problem with a habit, and that's what they assume hypnosis is good for. So from QHHT, they learn the real reason why they have the habit and why it's difficult to get rid of, and then the subconscious or their subconscious figures out the best way to deal with this problem. So instead of overriding the system, it's giving the person the option to do it themselves, basically do it yourself kind of methodology. And a lot of them are like disappointed because they're like, oh, so I'm gonna have to put in work to get this done. So when they go to classical hypnotist, usually it's the hypnotherapist is doing the work for them. So a lot of people would maybe prefer that if they want to get rid of something that they have a hard time understanding that it's actually their responsibility to deal with.
Of course. Yeah. Of course, I 100% agree. 100% agree.
I have a comment on that as well. As someone who's been through this, once you don't know the reason why something is happening, even if you do like classical hypnosis and you get whatever you need to do, the program that you need, and move on, if you don't fix the root, it will come again and you're going to have to face it again later.
It can come in a different form. For example, instead of like
being addicted
about the
to
smoking, yes, you can do the session of hypnosis and like, you don't want to smoke, so the person, he stops smoking because he doesn't feel the urge to smoke anymore, but the problem is still there. He starts what? Drinking. He starts what? Eating, overeating. He starts other things. So he's not like fixing it from inside, from deep inside. Is just putting makeup on it, just fixing it from the surface, and yeah. So there are a lot of that's why usually I perform therapy sessions with my clients before we get down to to the hypnosis session itself, because it's important for me to understand why and how and where and in what way. And then after we reach to a solution and a conclusion, okay, we use the session as a hypnosis as a solution to fix it for the person to
Interesting.
after understanding, we fix it. But as you said, like you do it for the person. So like, for example, my experience is here in Russia. So here in Russia, a hypnotherapist is a magician. You know, he's a person with magical powers. He can do you whatever you want. So yeah,
Speaking of which, I wanted to ask Sue, in your process, do you also do it? I know the answer, but I want to involve Sue in this question. So, in your process, do you do sort of a pre-session interview, just like classical hypnosis? And what do you learn from this process of doing an interview with the patient?
We don't call them patients, we call them clients. And we ourselves call practitioners. We are not a therapist. Why is that? Is because we facilitate the sessions. The healer itself is them, the people themselves. And they connect with their bigger self, we call higher self. And they are the one who heals their own issues. And practitioners like me, we just facilitate and help and guide them. And so people call us healers. That is not correct, because we are not healers. We are not magic makers. You yourself are the healers. You yourself are the magic makers.
That's interesting too. So again, when you have a client, you do a pre-session with them in the same day.
There is no pre-session, and there are 3 parts of the QHHT session. The first part is interview, we call. About 2 hours and more, we get to know about person. Say Svet comes for a session. I would like to know about your life, going back all the way, as far back as what you remember it. Specifically, I will ask Svet to tell me about your emotional aspect of your life, because that keeps our heart pumping. So we get to know that. And then you bring your questions about your physical discomfort. We ask questions: why, when, what are the symptoms? We don't care about terminology, what medical doctors are saying. We care about your symptoms. What do you feel? What are the pains or heat or whatever the symptoms we concentrate on? And the less terminology we use, the higher self likes it, because again, that's a human stuff that we label them. And there is another reason why it is you have issues of physical thing. We human think we know it, but they have different answers too sometimes, right? So we get to know about that. And also your questions on relationship and questions on how to become more abundant. I'm working hard, but there is no money coming in. I cannot barely pay my bills. And another thing is relationship. I have this partner, I'm having trouble, and there's no love there. In the beginning there was, but not anymore. Or children they have. Why my children have this issues, they don't appreciate me and all this, right? And also emotional aspect. I'm so tensed. And I got this gentleman recently came, and then he's got a right shoulder back is absolutely as hard as rock. I just wanted to know what kind of tension he carries. I touched it. It felt almost like a rock solid. So much tension. Why? By speaking about it, particular relationship, it's not working, but he thinks he's gonna make it all working up, because departing of the relationship is one of the biggest thing too. How to depart. You got to know, you got to love them, in the beginning was easy, you fall for and all this, but departure is a far more difficult than getting together. So we got to know why, and he has all these tensions. And so you bring all these questions, we talk about it in interview. That spends about 2 hours or sometimes 3 hours, 4 hours, go on like that, as long as we need. Then the person lies down, and that's called what we call transport. The person goes under using very simple modality, goes under theta cycle. We maintain them about 2 hours. In that portion, your healing's done, all the answers done. If your bigger self, higher self, wants to show you any life that's relevant to your current life issue, they will show you too. So that's about 2 hours. And then we bring them up out of the trance. Then the third part is we call post-session review. We are basically, I am practitioner is letting them know what kind of things was asked, what was been said briefly, not all the detail, because recording we do, and in there all details are all recorded. So you go home, listen the recording again and again and again, make your neural paths more productive way. So 3 parts we have. That's what the sessions are included, about 4 to 6, 7 hours. So in that one session, basically, you don't need anything else. What you do need is that you keep listening the recording again, so that you get more healings done as well. You get more wisdoms. You get to have more aha moments. When at the moment of session, you may not get it, but you down the road, you will get, I now understand. Then there is a real change happens. So it's basically quantum healing hypnosis technique is really make you change from the root out. Not a patching work, completely transform you. So this work is very, very important.
Would a client have a deeper or more relevant session if their practitioner is a very spiritual person and has had numerous spiritual experiences? Would that make the higher self, I know you can't speak for the higher self, but I'm just wondering if the higher self would be more comfortable with a practitioner who is very comfortable with the higher self or guides and spirits and whatnot.
Basically, the understanding that Dolores used to mention, that that the practitioner or the practitioner's belief affects the outcome of the session just as much as the client's belief affects the session as well. And that's something that we have done a bit of research about as well. But Sue, would you like to answer that question?
Okay, the way I understand is that it mainly depends on your belief system. If you believe the practitioner should have a more spiritual evolution and more skillful, if that is going to work better for you, then definitely it is the way to go. But if your belief system says, doesn't matter what the spirituality of the practitioner has or knowledge they have, they're using the same method, it is up to me to go relinquish your ego. That is totally up to you. Whatever you believe, it will work that way.
So just to add to that, the belief is not something that we're usually familiar with. A lot of times it's hidden. So I have had a few people who said like, oh, I went to one practitioner and it wasn't working well, and then I went to someone else and it worked like magic, because sometimes the belief is hidden, so you wouldn't know the actual belief unless you're opening it up and examining it. So, so it's not necessarily that one practitioner is less spiritual or that affects the session itself. it's how you approach the session that also determines the outcome. If you're approaching it from, I need you to do all the work for me, or I trust you, or I don't trust you, that also affects how much you're willing to sort of cope with the session uh,
Mhm.
from that perspective. But from a research perspective, the more open you are as a practitioner, the more likely you'll want to examine things differently. So the role of the practitioner is to facilitate the session, right? So, for example, you could have someone's subconscious, mention something very quickly, and so the facilitator's point of view or their understanding of life is what denotes whether they want to dive deeper into that topic or they want to just stay sort of on the surface of it, right?
Mhm.
So maybe Sue can talk about this and how when you do your research, how you want to examine things so deeply and in such details that you end up sort of discovering new things in the process. So that could be valid in this case when you're doing research, that the practitioner itself, their beliefs affect the outcome because the way they examine the information being released
Yeah.
changes the viewpoint of the session itself.
I just remembered while you were talking, I remembered in one of Dolores' books when she discusses how when she first stumbled across all of this experience in the SC, how she needed to evolve as much as she can while she was holding the hypnosis sessions.
Right.
And then when she found herself to be kind of against the information she's uncovering, she kind of understood that she needs to not hold on to what she knows and be more open to always accept new information. I think this key point for me, it would be very important in a practitioner because if my subconscious is trying to uncover something that is against what my practitioner would believe, maybe they wouldn't ask further. Maybe they wouldn't investigate properly. Maybe they wouldn't hold the proper conversation for me to understand the whole concept that my subconscious was trying to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
That's a very good point, Lama. And what it is that when you see the person, you feel the person, the first impression. So when you select the practitioners on the profiles, because when you feel that there is a connection with that practitioner, then normally your higher self will give you a nudge that go to that person. That means you and the practitioner might have a similar plane of understanding about things. So if you pursue spiritualities, you have certain understanding, then you ask questions of what is my guru, for example. And some people say, okay, they have developed project that, but what is my true path? Now, me coming from my own spiritual practice, I would not emphasize my own way of it. However, I will have a bigger picture of what is a spirituality is, what is your purpose of life is. So therefore, I will gearing the questions, guiding you to the right path of your selecting guru, for example. So that way, I will prod more and then ask more questions. What is most important being a good practitioner? The first one is that be curious. When you have a curiosity, then question automatically comes and you prod more, you want to know more. And then you ask more, then you get more answers. And so when you don't ask, there's nothing. That's why higher self is always asking us, ask. The answer is right there. So it depends on what are good questions a practitioner ask is a huge benefit for the clients. When clients is lying down, basically guided but not conditioned by a practitioner at all, by asking questions, you go deeper and deeper and deeper. And basically, we will unravel the mysteries of the creation and the source itself.
And is there any way for clients to be able to determine which practitioner is more spiritual? I mean, it wouldn't say that on their profile.
No, you just feel for it, right? You just go to
Okay.
their website,
Okay.
what their articles writing about. You feel
Okay.
the energy of the practitioner and you decide yourself.
Okay.
And spirituality is not something like, hey, I'm spiritualist, I'm evolved.
Rate my profile. How evolved am I?
Very evolved. Right. So spirituality, the more you are evolved, people are more humble. That's for sure. That's common character. But
Yes.
however, just go through all this because I'm speaking from quantum healing hypnosis practitioner point of view.
Mhm.
There is a find the practitioner column there when you go to the QHHTofficial.com.
Mhm.
Look around and click them and go into
Mhm.
detail of what are their what are they saying.
Yes.
When you read about, you feel first impression coming from that practitioner, you feel good about it, then go to it.
Yes.
Then there will be a great harmony between you and the practitioner, and session will be phenomenal. There's no question.
I think it's important to point out that in QHHE, you are having an open conversation with the higher self, but the higher self talks to us every day.
Absolutely.
They talk to us in many ways, non-verbal ways. So I think when Sue is pointing out that just look at the person and see if this person's energy, if your intuition calls on that person, this is another type of communication between you and your subconscious. And the more you focus on that, the more you access different types of communication. Our subconscious doesn't leave us to be on our own. Our subconscious is with us all the time. We're just socially conditioned not to have this open conversation with them.
Very well explained, Lama, because Lama's higher self is the same with my higher self. It's the same with the VM's higher self. It's the same with the Svet's higher self. So when you feel the higher self is already same, just guiding you that, okay, this person is for you, go to it. Just follow your guidance, right?
There's always this hidden synchronistic pull in life that gets us to introduce us to things and bring us more awareness to them. And
Exactly.
intuition is one form of communication. After doing a lot of research, hypnosis research, I started sort of fine tuning this voice in my head, understanding when it's my voice, when it's not, um, and this process, the more you refine it, the easier it is for you to access. So sometimes uh, I have open conversations the same way I do when I'm in a hypnosis session, when I'm doing meditation on my own, and sometimes in my dreams I have that kind of communication. And sometimes sporadically, when something needs to come to me, when an information needs to be delivered to me, I receive it in the most weirdest times because I need that information. Just an example, like last week, I was scheduled to do work somewhere, and right before I was going to sleep, like I sat in bed and everything, and then the sound of the subconscious that I can now easily detect said, "You're not
After
going."
many sessions of hypnotherapy.
After like years, we're talking, well, maybe more than 5 years, right? The sound was saying, "Oh, you're not going," and I was like, I knew it was the intuition is coming from there because I knew it, but I was like, no, I really want to go, and they're like, whatever you want to say to yourself, it's not gonna happen. We're telling you ahead of time, so you prepare yourself. I was like, no, and I kept fighting, and then the next morning I was told you're not going there, and I was like, okay. So sometimes
I think your
learning to
example is
listen.
I think your example is quite advanced since you've done a lot of hypnosis and do identify the voice of the subconscious within you. I think maybe it would be better for you to decide on a certain symbol or a certain figure. And then if you are like, let's say owls are an important symbol for you. So let's say you would be logging in to other people's to the practitioners' websites, and then you'd stumble across illustration of an owl on one of the practitioners' website. This would be like a way for the subconscious trying to track you or lead you into that person. So you can open this conversation with your subconscious by deciding a certain symbol.
I understand.
And there is always a guidance out there, right? Inner guidance, some people like William's case, he's quite far advanced, so he's got a lot of information coming. But ordinary mortals like you and I, we sometimes hear voices, right?
Yeah.
Or sometimes a solar plexus, that some nudge comes from your solar plexus.
Yeah, like butterflies in your stomach.
Yeah, or gut feeling, people call gut feeling, is saying that inside it tells you no, but our ego wants it. Huh? But however, inside wants all the time. Something like that. So we all have some kind of guidance always with us. The more we are open and develop it, and then we also get like a WM's stage, get images and then, words and all that stuff. But we all have the ability, simply develop it. Maybe some people go into the gut feeling. That's a very good start. Most people feel inside them, inside the body says yes, then your logic says, oh no, this is not good and costs too much and so much trouble to travel and all that. But inside tells yes, then you just have to go, right?
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I also wanted to, you mentioned, Sue, you mentioned about the instant healing that people were going through within
Yes.
the sessions. So let's elaborate more on that, and then maybe let's cover that in comparison to classical hypnosis and how this works.
One fantastic instant healing occurred in front of my eyes recently. Now, this young man's the body has been dismembered from hip down to the legs to the feet many lifetimes ago. And usually people sometimes still I see that, well, you live only once, that kind of belief system they have. And when they come for past life review, they got surprised. Oh, I lived that before? Really? And conscious mind will start to question, really? I don't know. I think I made it all up, right? But however, this man has such a belief in power of himself. And he believed the power that his bigger self will cure instantly for all these things. So when this person lying down, he didn't even bother go to any past life review, none. Right away, healing started. Few minutes, deep, deep sigh with the deep relaxations. I already saw this person in a deep sinking in the trance, almost like his body is sinking into his bed. That's the impression I had. Deep in trance, allowed it happens, and trust the entire modality. So then his higher self came. Of course, usually some people imagine it's coming some booming voice, hey, I'm coming, or like some different voice coming, or lightning strike. No, it's not like that, because your higher self has been always with you for eons, from the beginning of your existence up until now. So they know all about you. So they've been waiting for this man for that moment, because this man carried that pain far too long. So it's got to be healed now within 2 hours. About 2 hours, people lie down in trance, because that's how our body is designed. So they already know that within 2 hours, we have to do it. So they started healing. So they started healing the hips. What they did was that this client saw all his body bones were on the table. And then herself was taking one of his problem hip, took the bone out, wash it, repair it, and put them all back. Put the ankle, the knee bone, took it out, wash it, repaired it, put them back, and the knee, took it out, on and on. So it's all healed. And so by doing that, me, a practitioner, has a curiosity why this person has such a traumatic pains. So by simply asking questions, you get to know what kind of life this person had. So past life story is coming from higher self instead of let the client viewing. So meantime, his higher self is all healing and everything. So now Lama's question was how this person has this miraculous healing, because the person believed in his power, believed in his higher self power, had a complete trust that it's going to be healed now, today.
You'd have other people coming in and not being
Yes,
capable.
some other people, yes, of course. Because as just mentioned, because some other people have doubts. They have a doubt that I'm not so sure it's going to be possible. Only doctors can heal it. If they have that kind of belief system, healing is just mediocre. The higher self is there, but this client has a doubt, prevents the entire miracles.
Recently shared a video on your channel about someone who had a skin rash or something that after the session, a few days after, it started to disappear.
Some lady, very, very young lady, not even married in this life. And she came in complaints with all the other stuff, but she has a rosacea, such a beautiful person, and has a reddishness on her skin. And she wants to know, and she wants to heal it, of course. So we found out that in certain Mediterranean or Middle Eastern area where she lived back then, and her husband was not that very loving, and her husband poured acid on her face. And so, of course, all this face got all, what the effects of acid
That's in one
on
of
the
her
skin.
past lives.
Huh?
That's in one of her past lives, of course.
In one of her past life, yes.
Okay.
So
she
in
was
this life,
yeah.
she carries that, and it shows as rosacea, all the reddish spots on her skin. Now that she knows, of course, it's gone. As soon as person knows the reason, it disappears, because you know why? Higher self is trying to let you know that please look after this. This is the thing that you have to pay attention. I want you to find it out. So they guide you through the practitioners list and Dolores Cannon and all that, eventually come to with sessions, and then that's how they finally resolve the issues. And of course, in human relationship, as you all know, we cannot keep hating someone, then we are going backwards of evolutionary system. In order to moving forward for evolutionary system, upgrading our frequencies, we've got to love ourselves first. We have to forgive ourselves first, that what we have done something wrong. And then we also forgive the other person who hurt us. Now, this forgiveness technique, Dolores has mentioned about it. Also, I copied that link onto my website. And you've got to forgive the person. Before that, you have to forgive us first to moving forward and upgrading. And so once the person has to cut the relationship, one of the article I wrote is Cutting the Codes, is one of the most read article of my the stories. What it is that, of course, during so many relationships, there are some people in your life you simply cannot stand. It's just every time there is bothering you, every time you hear the person's name, they push your button and all emotions wild up and you get upset and become red and everything. Now we have to know why that person triggers you that much. Once going through this past life regression thing, you get to know why, then we come to know that we have to forgive ourselves because of what we did, obviously caused the person act that way too. So we have to forgive ourselves wrongdoings. And then also we have to forgive other person's wrongdoings. Now, if the person, two people cannot stand anymore, there is no more reason to be, then you simply cut the cord of energy. And I mentioned how to do it on my website in the article called Cutting the Codes. So go there and then read it and practice it. Now, sometimes it may not work just by once, then you do it again and again until it's done. And during that time, your body will respond to exude rashes from your body. Because why? Toxins inside you have built so many years is released that comes out in the form of rashes. This is very important human relationship where when you are not, we tried everything, but you cannot contain anymore. It's still dysfunctional relationship. Keep going and on, then it's time to cut the cords and do that. Nothing wrong with that. That's a part of your evolution as well. You are helping other person evolve. If you keep maintaining, pleasing the person that you know it's not working, then you're not really helping the other person's evolution as well. So before you decide, this is very sincere and serious matter, cutting the cords. If you decide, I need a cutting the cord, it's not like just you decide and go to, no, it's not that. You've got to sit down, meditate, go within, find out why do I need to cut the cords with this person. Takes time, sometimes takes months and months of a quiet time. Finally, you understood why it is necessity. Then do the forgiveness, then practice, see if it's working. Still not working, then do the cutting the cords. Then you are definitely deadly serious once you cut the cords, because especially if it's a family members, it's even difficult. Why family members? Because you are set in that family to work out the karma. You cannot avoid it. That's why the families are for. So you have to go within, walk the nature, and ask guidance from your higher self or bigger self or the source. Or if you have a spirit guide, ask help through spirit guides. Go through it, take your time. And once you make a decision, be serious about it, maintain. That is what I learned from this QHHT.
Yeah, this is one of the most important lessons that I think we see over and over with our sessions when we do QHHT, is that the importance to let go of uh, what we refer to as cord cutting. Importance to let go of certain people in your life in order to move forward. We even did a whole research session about that and developed a workshop that we gave, and it was a very successful workshop. Um, the essence of cord cutting is based on what the subconscious revealed, is basically getting unstuck in from a metaphysical perspective. So being stuck in a relationship, or being stuck in a even in a job, or in a place of where you live or something like that, that makes you prone to not moving forward. So the word cord cutting, meaning, or what they refer to, the subconscious refers to as getting unstuck, is just simply working through what you need to in order to move forward in life, in whatever area you want, whether that's a relationship or work or a country or a place or whatever it is, getting unstuck and moving, allowing the energy to flow. And there's a lot of lessons that we can talk about in that regard specifically. One of them being like, when you're doing this process, like Sue mentioned, it takes time, and it's not something that you can do with simply like doing a quick exercise. And there's a lot of cord cutting workshops online that you can sign up to do, and it's not as simple. You cut it with a scissors and you're done. It's a process. It takes time. So being aware of that and realizing the different types of cords that exist, there's physical, emotional, and mental cords, that will help you understand the process of why you're going through this, what are the lessons that you need to learn while you go through this, and so forth. I wanted to ask Sviet about the classical hypnosis. We talked a little bit about how being open-minded or being a spiritual person when you're a practitioner in QHHT helps the session. What about in classical psychology? Does your belief system affect the outcome of the session? Because I have heard a few, like I have had a few friends that went to psychologists to sort of help them in certain area, and the psychologist took them, or the hypnotherapist took them in a very different route than what they wanted. So what's your experience in this?
Belief system and the ego are very tightly connected, and the result is most of the times is doubt. As simple as, if the person has doubt, since it's all in the person's hands, since the whole whether you can help or not, the client is totally in his hand. So a factor such as doubt has a huge effect on the session, has a huge effect on the session, on the client as well. So the mentality or the belief system or the open-mindedness of the person plays a very big role. For example, when people come and they have an idea about hypnosis from the movies, for example, that I hear a lot, for example, like, are you sure you're not gonna turn me into chicken, or this kind of stuff. So when a person or a client comes with this mentality or this belief system, or for example, are you sure you're not gonna know the numbers of my safe or anything? So this plays a big influence on the session itself. So we have to, before the session, talk a bit about it, understand where he stands, destroy a little bit of myths about his ideas about hypnosis, build, of course, trust between us, and then once he has become a little bit more open-minded, more understanding and aware of this, then the session becomes totally different.
And what are some of the lessons learned from the repetitions that you've done? So when people come with similar problems, what are some of the lessons you've learned from your sessions?
The biggest lesson out of all that I've learned is that it's all in our hands. It's all in our hands. We can solve, we can heal, we can fix, we can realize, we can understand all by ourselves if we just simply give ourselves that attention or that time. In the classical hypnosis sessions, as it varies from QHHT, where QHHT is quantum healing hypnosis technique, the keyword is healing. In classical hypnosis sessions, we don't have these experiences of instant healing, for example. So the sessions there are more psychological, more conscious understanding, more psychological realization of things. Like, for example, a person can understand why he has a specific program, where it came from past experience, and of course it's in his hands and liberty to change it or not. So from this, I've learned that we have all the power in ourselves, as Sue mentioned. Totally right, totally correct, that we, like, for example, a hypnosis practitioner, he doesn't really do anything to the person. He is just a facilitator. That's exactly the situation. So even when the person during the deep trance, he himself fixes it, understands it, realizes it, chooses to replace the program or not with another program, if it's suitable for him or no. So the biggest lesson that I've learned from it is that we have all the power in our hands to heal, to fix, to understand, to realize, to learn. We have it all. We have all the tools and equipments.
Yeah, and that's very important lesson too, because it's empowering individuals to realize that we have all the answers, and we have what it takes to change our future, basically, right?
Exactly.
I also wanted to ask Sue to elaborate more on the cases where people carry certain burdens from their past lives, like how you've explained in this woman's case when she was carrying this the redness on her face because of something that happened with her in her past life.
Yeah. Well, because of the past life, the issue wasn't resolved at all. So that carried to this current life. Who knows, maybe she carried to the past life too. Not the past life where that happened, but next life where she came in, she might have carried, I don't know. But in this current life, she came to my attention and talked about, and we realized that is what it is. So people carry asthma from previous lives. One gentleman saw, well, he came and said, well, I have asthma using puff. So he also mentioned that several members of his family all have asthma. So maybe that's a genetic. Okay, let's find it out. What we found out, in a flash of second, he saw the tent where they were just burned, totally burned. As soon as he saw the burning tent, his asthma totally disappeared, because he knew the reason why he has asthma. That was the cause of it. Once we know the cause of it, it disappears. Interestingly, that's what the higher self is trying to tell you. You know this is the reason, so now you know it, don't worry about it, it's gone. I delivered my message. And higher self always uses our body as a messenger. When they want to say something, they try to talk to you in your ears. They give you information during the dream. They give you feelings. But we say, no, that's coincidence. No, that's nonsense. Dream, yeah, well, I forgot, right? So finally, they use the body, because why body? once our body pains, we pay attention. Oh, what happened? My knee hurts. I cannot even walk. Then we pay attention, try to fix it. In so doing it, some people get to know about QHHT or conventional hypnosis, whatever. In my case, I can talk about QHHT. So they come to. We find out that's the reason why this person had knee issues back many, many lives ago, right? And then asthma, and we talked about it, and rosacea, we talked about, and fibromyalgia. I've had a few people. Fibromyalgia is the one that your muscles are so all over the place for no reason. One specific woman who has, a few fibromyalgia people, but interestingly, the reason is different, but symptoms are same. So this woman who had fibromyalgia, her biological father did not want that child. It was unwanted child. And the biological father kicked his wife from the stairs, hoping that will result in miscarriage. So even as an embryo, this person had already had a shock in herself. So her right eye is, okay, now I'm seeing the right eye here, but on the screen is this side, right? Okay, so her right eye is not seeing very well. Already damaged in the embryo stage, inside of the womb, because mother was falling down the stairs. So of course, higher self suggests this lady to put the hands and then visualize green lights healing her eyes. So going back to fibromyalgia, this person was sexually abused by her biological father from 3 weeks old baby onward to 5 years old. Can you imagine? Consciously, she didn't remember it until the session, but subconsciously, all the memory was there and all her body remembers. So therefore, she does not like to be touched. So her body automatically aches when someone, even herself, touches it. So that was the reason. What was the lesson of that in her case? She had to stand on her feet and then bring her personal power to her father. In the previous life, he abused her and she didn't stand up. In this life, she tries again. And then here, this time, she stood up. Now, in the session, we got to find out the reason. Blinding white lights in the space where we were. She picked her eyes. No, nothing. It's still same. The curtains are drawn. Same thing. But blinding light healed entire fibromyalgia, never more pain. Now, some of the cases I mentioned, asthma, rosacea, fibromyalgia, and what was the other one that I mentioned? I even forgot. All these things, because they carry from past to this life and still in their body, reminding them, please look after this, please look after, resolve this issue. They keep reminding until they solve the issue and heal it, right? So everybody who has issues on the past left-hand side, anything on your left-hand side usually comes from your past life. Or even in this current life, past instance. Your left-hand side is past life issue. Your right-hand side is your right now issue, right now this current issue. So pay attention. If you have anything bothers on your left-hand side, make sure you find and go seek the help, because that's from the past issue, past life issue. Who knows, maybe many lives ago or maybe 1,000 years ago, we have no idea, but it needs to be fixed, right? It needs to be resolved. Higher self uses our body as a messenger. Pay attention to our body sign. Anything your body tells you something, find it out. You have all the power. We have all the practitioners in the world. Go and seek the help. Because you don't have to carry. Now, if you don't resolve that, you're going to carry the next life. Why carry when there is an opportunity? So resolve now and live happy.
You mentioned in this particular case that she was being abused by her father in her past life and she didn't stand up to him.
Correct.
And in this current life, she was learning how to stand up to him.
And she stood up. Yes.
She stood up.
Yeah, she learned.
Does that particularly initiate that they were together in their past life, the same two souls?
Yes, they were together in different functions, but
Yes.
she was in a position where she had to stand up and she didn't.
Yes. So what I'm asking here is to explain further about how hypnosis or QHHT was capable to understand how our lives are still connected throughout different
Yes.
lifetimes.
Life continues.
Life continues together, yeah.
Yeah. So in the past life, they were loving partners. In this life, they can be another loving partners or maybe good friends. It doesn't always have to be in the same role because we change the roles, right? But in the past life, the things didn't work out. It's got to be resolved. In the cosmos, in the world of souls, only love prevails. If there is anything not happy or nothing's resolved, you've got to work it out to make it loving. So that's what we are doing. So if you know that relationship is not going well, then there is a past life influence is there that it didn't work out that time. You are here together to work things out this life. So pay more attention, open your heart, and say the truth with a loving intention. As long as you come from the truth and loving heart, we don't know what the result is going to be. I mean, how our small consciousness know what is going to be the effect of down the road of 100 years now? We don't know. But as long as we know, we have control that we can love the person from real truth from our heart. As long as we do and let go, and they look after everything.
Mm-hmm.
And everything will work out beautifully.
That's one of the things that we see over and over when we do QHHT is the importance of resolving your karma. There's every person who comes here or is alive right now, they came here for a reason, right? And so part of that reason is to resolve anything that wasn't resolved in a previous life, if they have lived on this planet or on other planets. And getting to know what the karma is and working on resolving it consciously is a different form of coming to terms with reality. It helps you to sort of accept certain things that happened and move forward with them with more ease. But I personally wouldn't normally advise people if they're just interested in seeing what their past life is or something like that. Like, I personally wouldn't do a QHHT session just if they're curious, because the point is to be able to heal and move forward. So if you're just curious, that's gonna be a waste of my time as a practitioner, because like I'd rather take the time to focus on the people who actually have something deep to work on. And QHHT is not something that's simple and just like, oh, I'm going for hypnosis. No, it's a real important shift in your life. It's a very crucial point in your evolution, and it's a very powerful tool, and we need to treat it with respect. So if someone can get their resolution or their problem fixed in any other easier way, I always suggest they go the easy route, because QHHT is gonna bring everything to the surface, and if you're not strong enough to work with it, then it's gonna be challenging for you, right? So I always re-insist that it's a powerful technique. Only come when you're ready, when you feel like it's the right time, and
Do your research properly
yeah, definitely.
and really think thoroughly of your questions.
Yeah, that's another thing that Sue and I talk about. Sometimes people come with like 4 or 5 pages of questions, and you only have 2 hours to resolve all of that stuff and do the healing, and so so it's not a game. It's not like, oh, I just want to know about what happened. No, it's like you really need to sort of think deeply about what are the things that you yourself are unaware of, and that you really think that you'd benefit from learning about, instead of just saying, should I dye my hair red or black next month? Like, I've I've seen that question once, and yeah, that's all.
It is obviously greater, much greater than these superficial things, but they learn, they evolve. It's okay, no judgment.
And yeah, we're not judging people who have this kind of questions. We're just saying, like, it's not a game. So if you have these questions, ask them to your friends, or you can sit by yourself and ask yourself. You don't need to.
Yeah, you can get those answers in meditation and guided meditations and some concentration techniques or anything. Anyway, I am so sad to tell you our time is up.
Yeah, it's been a wonderful discussion, and I feel like we probably need a second or a third discussion to get all the ideas across, because there's so much to talk about.
I
But
think we'll need to do a second episode
We'll do a series.
where we can
Hypnosis discussion.
discuss more about reincarnation, and there are much more topics to cover. So yeah.
But I guess that this is a really good start with our first discussion series. I think if anybody has any comments or any feedback or anything to bring forward, even the people who are watching us over YouTube, just write them in the comments and help us make this easier and better for everyone. Thank you a lot for Sue. We know you are very busy, and thank you for giving us time to sit and talk with us. Thank you a lot for Sviet. Soon we'll sit together and talk more. And thank you for trusting us. And we'll hope to see you in our future workshops. We are hosting a workshop every Saturday, so you can go to the website and check out our workshops. Most of our workshops are for free, so you can just book any workshop that resonates with what you are looking for. And thank you for Wiam, the founder of this idea and the person who brought us all together.
yeah, you're very welcome, and thank you for pointing out that we have other workshops happening, and go see what resonates with you. We will also be uploading some services starting July, and we will have some courses that you can take online at your own time, which is going to be amazing. And whenever we have a workshop that's donation based, feel free to come and participate and share your thoughts and help us help you. It's a group effort that we're putting here. And check out the website with the link. We'll put it in the description of the YouTube video as well. And you'll also be able to find snippets of this on Sue's channel, because she will also be posting some of the snippets. So, okay, thank you so much, everyone, for watching, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.